Resume the meeting of September 19th, 2016. Councilmember Clower, will you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Ready? Salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Mayor Velasquez.
Here.
Vice Mayor Gomez. City Council Member Friend. City Council Member Clower.
Here.
City Council Member Luna. City Manager Avera.
Present.
City Attorney Sullivan. Here. Chief of Police Westrick.
Here.
And City Clerk Graves here.
Thank you. Verification of agenda posting.
The agenda for the regular City Council meeting of the City of Hollister of September 19th, 2016 was posted on the bulletin board at City Hall on September 16th, 2016 at 9:30 a.m. per Government Code Section 94954.2.
Thank you. City Attorney, anything you want to report out from closed session?
There's nothing to report out.
Thank you very much. Tonight we have a proclamation for the Hollister Airmen's Association. Are they here tonight?
I believe I saw
There's Ruth.
Yeah, there's Ruth.
I couldn't see you tonight. Good to see you. Whereas Hollister Airmen's Association is proudly celebrating its 70th anniversary of serving Hollister Municipal Airport and the community since 1946. Now, therefore, I, Ignacio Velasquez, Mayor of the City of Hollister, do hereby proclaim October 2016 as Hollister Airmen's Association Month in the City of Hollister, and invite everyone to enjoy the history of the Hollister Municipal Airport. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I want to thank you very much for this proclamation. We're very proud that we have been serving the community and the airport for 70 years, and we look forward to the future, the exciting future of aviation. And we invite you out there anytime you need to come or would like to come, learn a little bit about the airport. When we have the air shows, we hope you came. If not, there are other air shows before the next one. For instance, there's one at Salinas coming up. And also, we invite anybody who would like to join us. We have meetings and we have speakers and exciting things that happen out there. You just don't realize it unless you are part of the group. So please come and join us. If you want to know more, contact me or contact the airport and they'll give you my information. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll move to the consent agenda.
Mr. Mayor, and staff would like to pull or table item A10 for future consideration.
Okay.
And Mr. Mayor, we also need to pull item A9.
All right.
Mr.
Anything
Mayor,
from the council?
Yes, I'd like to pull number 6.
All right. Are there any items from the public?
Yes. Item A3, A4, A5, A6, A7, A8, and A9.
All right. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Item A3.
Keith Snow.
Council, as one on this phone, are you guys can do anything with any solution and the thing on the agenda? Thank you.
I'm sorry, Mr. Snow, what was your question?
Do you have a solution for that on the A3? And the lawsuit, right? The lawsuits on the city. That ain't like do you know what it is? Is it related with the city? You guys done do anything for that?
A3 is the fee for live scan.
Yeah, this is
I mean the live scamming.
right.
I mean, is there the scene and all that? The live scan thing.
Okay, so
Doesn't mean at all.
Mr. Snow, it's not a lawsuit. It's the
Not lawsuit.
ability. It just gives the ability for the police department to do the fingerprinting for nonprofit groups or those that need it done within a community.
No, I'm saying do it that already. I mean, do it the live scan machine already.
No, this is what we're going to allow them to be doing.
All right, thanks.
Okay. All right. Is any other on that item?
No, sir.
Is there a motion?
Motion to approve consent number 3.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Item A4.
Keith Snow. Mr. Snow has written on his comment card, what kind of lawsuit was he a partner with the city?
We'll let Mr. Snow ask the question.
I mean, like, what kind of lawsuit is it? Is it a fallen tree that wasn't watered, or is it a farm with the city? Or I mean, look in the one register record. I can find what kind of lawsuit is it.
These are just
I look in the one registers, right, on the agenda, and what's in the registers, like what lawsuit is it? Usually it's in there. And like I said earlier, or do you have any kind of what we can do differently on the lawsuits, or I mean, like to prevent it and divert the lawsuit. So it seems like it's a problem. Every week, every meeting there's a lawsuit.
okay.
Do you have any input?
Yes. So, Mr. Snow, whenever there's a claim against the city, it's like handling it with insurance. We have to have the insurance agencies speak to each other. It has to go through a process to allow it to go forward. So there's different issues that come before the city at each meeting. That's a very typical process we have to do here. All right.
I know, but the insurance, I mean, like, I know the insurance thing, you guys always decline it. So are you going to pay the insurance? So you don't want to pay insurances that when you get a car wreck, right, and stuff like that. But it's kind of like, as the insurance. So are you going to pay the claim and then not decline it, or tonight?
So, Mr. Snow, government's different than the private world. It's much slower
I know.
and a lot more
about
paperwork.
government.
And unfortunately, it has to go through this process first to go back to the insurance companies. All right?
Thanks.
Thank you very much. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve consent item number 4.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Item A5.
Keith Snow.
What on there? I wrote on the thank card.
Do you have the agenda there with yourself?
No, but on the card, and see you guys are not.
This is about a park bench at one of our parks.
I'm not, but I'll put the bench on the park. But are you gonna put like he had the clamp on that, like a little cement thing. They put when dig a hole with a hook on it with a lock. Or I guess and that's pretty much waiting for the bench. Or again, do that kind of system like me and Mike, tell me or you got a plan to do that.
We'll make sure it's secure, Mr. Snow.
All right, thanks.
Thank you very much. Is there a motion?
So move.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Item A6, Councilmember Luna?
Keith Snow?
Yes.
Oh,
Well, Councilmember Luna had a question
Sorry.
first.
Yeah. The reason I pulled it is because I would like to have a little bit more research on how a pantry works in the neighborhood. And besides that, we have 2 council members that are not here today. One of the council members, where this is supposed to be placed, is not here. I would prefer that the full council would be here for a discussion and to possibly, it's a good idea. I'm not against it, but it's just that I really believe we need to research it a little bit better. After reading the report from staff, it does say the pantry will be on the condition that the maintenance is responsibility of the city, and that brings some concern to me, because then are we going to be getting our employees out of a department to go out there and maintain this? That's going to cost us also some money, although the financial impact here, it says 0, but we are not sure of that. So in order for us to make sure, I feel that we need to have a discussion on this, and just so you know that it's something that a lot of neighborhoods throughout the nation are doing to help other people in need. It's not that I'm against it, but we need some more time on this.
Okay. Any other comments from council? I love these ideas, and I'm going to get my free library one built on my house in the next week or two. I'm excited about mine. We can always find issues with these things, and I think it's a great thing when we have the public stepping up and wanting to do it. I would hate to make this more difficult than it has to be. I don't see. I'm hoping the other council members would not be against it either. But I think it's. I'd love to see it put up. As a matter of fact, I'd love to go help put that thing up. So.
For the record, that's what the mayor said. He would help.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'll be there in a second. Well, let's hear. We had a comment from the public, I believe.
Mr. Snow?
I'm for it too, like it said on the car. And only thing that the problem would be, the county has a food bank that donate every year on all days and all that. One thing that we're got a problem with is like a lawsuit. A lawsuit means that when you do dispute food cans, they can be expired, right? And like when they did things in San Batista, and when they gave food away, it wasn't expired food, so people got food poisoning. So that's the one thing I want my volunteer too for that, because it's a good idea. But the one thing is the expired food on the cans, because the people do need food, and I do need food too. But only the problem you have on the idea, it's a good idea. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Snow. Any other speakers on it?
No, sir.
Is there a motion? Motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And motion carries. We'll move forward to item A7.
Mr. Snow?
I think it's the what's called for the pizza part and then on the agenda. What I wrote there, Tom. that the thing?
Yes, Mr. Snow, you wrote on the card, didn't we buy all these devices before?
Yes.
What do we do with all the old gear?
Then like all the old surplus. I for it, right? What we do with the old gear? And I know we need that for to work at night, or people want to get paid to, which should be, because, what do you do with the old gear? It makes the Americans say no feedback there. Respond. There's what you guys do with it? You're charged police department.
Mr. Snow, this is an additional piece of equipment. This helps radar monitor speeds in different neighborhoods so they can download the information, and then the police force can go back out and monitor those areas that have excessive speed. And we know we have a lot of speeders in our community, so I think we could probably use 10 more of these, actually.
I know, but I'm saying, do we have any, or?
We do have some now, but we do need
But
additional
I
equipment.
know, but I'm for it. I know it's cost $3,000 for one. I know all about the device and all that, spy equipment and all that. So I know what I'm saying is, that there are all kinds of. We want the device, the radar, but or he can use it because a little sunset right there. There are 100 miles an hour. I go to the church on Fairview. There are 110 miles an hour. 7 points, right? In 25 all the time. And 156, we should make it like a to create local revenue to pay for this, right? And with District, see, imagine, like I was saying before, we should start doing an idea, plan how we're going to go back, create local revenue. That's what I'm trying to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Snow. Is there a motion?
Second.
Motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Move forward to item A8.
Mr. Snow? Mr. Snow, you wrote on the card, that's good, and with that refund, they can buy the radar device.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. See, I'm with the full refund, so you can buy the device. So that's, maybe you get 2 devices, right? Thank you.
So it all worked out now? We're good? Okay. Okay. Is there a motion?
Hold on.
I'm sorry?
Chief Westrick, can you give us just a quick overview of this item, please? Just so everyone's clear on what's going on.
Absolutely. So these were rifle sights we purchased back in 05. In 05, they were great, and since then, they've actually been recalled. So EOTech, the firm that actually made these, actually refunded all of our money, and with that refund, we're able to purchase replacement rifle sights. So we're going to rifle lights. Sorry, what we'll do.
Thank you.
Thank you. So there's a motion.
I'll second.
Motion is second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Move to item A9.
Mr. Mayor, I asked to pull this item because although this is formally accepting the resignation of Councilmember Clower from the ad hoc committee, we don't have a new member named in the reso.
Okay. I'd like to ask the council members to appoint myself onto this ad hoc committee so I can continue the conversations. We're going to be speaking to a few different attorneys on this matter and continue meeting with the public. If I get your support, we can move forward on that. Consensus? Support? And we'll make a motion to support the resignation. Motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
I have a public comment card on this,
you do?
Mr. Mayor.
Shooting on that.
Keith Snow? Mr. Snow wants to know why Councilmember Clower is resigning.
Why get that? I guess nothing about marijuana, and the school and all that, schools and all that, and the general and adult, like what's called the but the Bill Clinton, all that and everything, and Mark Obama and all the rest. But the point is, right, what I'm trying to get at, what's the reason why he's resigning? Mr. Clower, do you have any comment? See, what I'm trying to get at, and you, the mayor, what are you guys going to do differently? Because, I mean, we waste all kinds of money on consultants, Aaron Johnson, the lawyer at your law firm.
Mr. Snow, this is not about other items.
I know,
It's
but I'm
about a
saying
person
that
that's
there's
decided-
the reason why I quit.
It's very tough. These committees take quite a bit of time.
I can answer.
Well, yeah, I know
I
you
answered
got-
the
When I say don't do
Councilmember
nothing
Clower would like
at
to
all.
answer your question.
Yeah. So basically, I put 6 months of hard work into this, and then at the end of 6 months, I found out that my district wasn't interested in it, so it didn't make sense for me to continue spending 20 to 30 hours a week on it when my district didn't want it. That's about it.
I know that's good for the district, but you as a representative of the people, if you spend 6 months
Mr. Snow,
of your time, that
Mr.
doesn't make
Snow,
sense.
please, Councilmember Clower, answer your question.
All right, I would
Please have the
thank you, but I
respect.
was kind of confused there. I mean, I don't know about 6 months of work. I would not surely tell my district I'm working on this for the benefit of the people and resource of the taxes that you guys are generating, the revenue. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Mr. Snow. Okay. There was a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Item
Already voted
10.
for it.
Item 10 is pulled, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, is there a motion to
Table? Or just leave it?
just DOA? Okay. We'll move to public input. Members of the public may address the city council on any matter within the city council's jurisdiction that is not on the agenda. Comments are limited to 3 minutes per person with a maximum of 30 minutes per subject. Speaker cards are available in the foyer and are to be completed and given to the city clerk before speaking. State law prohibits the city council from discussing or taking action on any item which is not on the agenda. Do we have speakers tonight?
We do, Mr. Mayor. The first speaker is Keith Snow.
Council, the comment today, free speech, someone say it's unethical and whatever it is, right? You know, it's due to me. But I want to what our kids are the future. Make keep fact. In all the when I went to the school board meeting over there, they told me to say the message that you're confused on the government at the school, right? I want you to know that. And the point is, right, I got like a little pamphlet in the mail the weekend. How can we had 911 calls, we lost $2.3 million revenue, how said all kinds of resources was there, but on the measure for the 20 years more. And I went on that measure, all that there's the 3 things on the measure that's false. We, as opposed to taxpayer, we got 2008, where we got money for measure T and measure E. On the measure there, it has all the really 20 years here. But what we need to do, as you guys need to do, is have a plan, like a measure P that pass. And they're known to oppose my constituents, and people I've been taught to respond to every day. They do not want no tax measure. Because one thing, if we lost $2.3 million on now calls and all the other things you put on that measure 3 topics, that as with that measure, we don't make sense. What we need to do is use that radar you guys been talking about. So we should go out there, generate it that way to start doing the work. And all the we spend there do, all the contracts that we do, we get ourselves into, business into. You guys out there, okay, these contracts that we cannot afford. But how can we balance our budget when we 4 years of this and 2 years more? I mean, they want to try and get at. I mean, the point is right. We should be more closer to our kids and do the key thing on the Metro W. Metro out the boss, council the library, the education on the 31st.
Thank you very much, Mr. Snow.
Tim Burns.
Good evening, Council. Good evening, Mayor. My name is Tim Burns, and I'm a resident of District 4. I want to talk to you about a couple different things, but before we move forward, I first of all would like to acknowledge the presence of a significant group of youth in our presence now. I think it's totally awesome, and they truly are our future, and so it's encouraging to see them here to see city government at its finest. Moving forward, I had an opportunity to review the ballot question for Measure W, and part of the language says to keep Hollister safe by maintaining Hollister's public safety services, rapid 911 emergency response times, and operations at all current fire stations, neighborhood police patrols, park recreation programs, and other city services. Having read that, I have some questions that I think are relevant and need to be answered as we move forward to hopefully have the voters approve Measure W. I strongly support it. However, having said that, what I want to know is, what does this mean? Maintaining Hollister's public safety services. Does that mean at their current level, does that mean 28 firefighters, or does it mean 40 firefighters? I'm not really clear. I'm not clear on what the response times are for calls for service for our police department or for our firefighters, or even maybe for your code enforcement officer. And I think those are important for the community to know what they are versus what they will become in the event Measure W does not pass. I actually went online and tried to find any type of an independent annual audit on Measure E, and to my disappointment, I could not find any. I submitted a public records request today, and to their credit, I've already been contacted by city staff, so I'm encouraged by that. I am anxiously awaiting to see what the measurables are. I think it's really important that we understand this. I know that the SAFER grant has not been awarded yet. I'm anxiously awaiting to find out, but I would challenge you again, what is your plan B if that doesn't happen, and what is your plan B if it does happen from 2 years later? Ultimately, we need to see, as a member of the community, exactly where those monies went from Measure E to be wise and informed and provide that information as we go forward in the voting process. And more importantly, I think what we need to know really are what are the measurables from Measure E and what are the consequences if Measure W does not pass. I recognize there's about a year and a half gap between one and the other potentially, but I think we need to get prepared for that. And then finally, I would like to again encourage that the city be more transparent and accountable in providing these reports online through their website, through the police department and the fire department's website, so that somebody doesn't necessarily have to do a public records request. Makes absolutely no sense to me, and particularly during this critical time that we're about to encounter as we get close to the vote. Once again, thank you for your time, and I appreciate that very much, and have a good night, Council.
Thank you.
Marty Richmond.
Marty Richmond from Hollister. Good evening. So last week I had the pleasure of attending the meeting on the idea of a fault examination downtown for the earthquake faults. And I just wanted to say that I wanted to compliment the staff and the county for thinking ahead. I don't know if this is going to fly. It'll all depend on the property owners, what they want to do.
but the idea of coming up with an option that would let them act collectively to save a lot of money in the end, I think is a good idea. It's forward thinking, and that's important. So I always enjoyed technical presentations, and I enjoyed that technical presentation a lot. Obviously, the decision is a tough decision going to be a difficult decision for a lot of people, depending on what their financial condition is, what they think they're going to do with their future investment in the downtown area. But if they don't do it, the other option is there isn't going to be much that they'll be able to do for development or improvement on those parcels, and I would hate to see them just stay empty. I just think that just is terrible for the city as a whole. So I hope we can cooperate to work together to get something going, but I think a lot of it's going to depend on individual property owners and what their capability is of stomaching the cost, and it's not going to be cheap. So I just, again, want to thank, so many times we're operating from behind the eight ball. I want to thank the city and the city council, whoever's involved, for getting ahead of the game a little bit and at least put some options on the table that have the potential to give us a better return, even though it may take several years. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Veronica Lezama.
Good evening, mayors and council members. My name is Veronica Lezama, and I'm the president of the Mexican American Committee on Education. And earlier this year, the City Council provided some essential funding to MACE, a local nonprofit that has been in our community for many, many years, 45 years. And the purpose of that grant was for us to establish and develop a young male leadership conference, which we held on September 7th at San Benito High School, and we're super excited to report that we had just about 200 young males attend the conference. And again, this was held at San Benito High School, and the conference basically focused on young men who are at risk or moderately at risk of not passing or not graduating from high school. And I prepared a summary of the conference for you. And as you can see from the handout, there's some commentary from some of the young men. And one particular one that stood out to me was, I felt inspired. I loved the whole experience. I felt motivated. I want to go to college. And I just wanted to express the appreciation that our committee has for the city and their generosity in providing these essential funding so that we can motivate the next generation of youth in our community. I also wanted to express a appreciation to our other sponsors, Chispa Housing and Mr. Jose Briones, who is a young man from, actually now an adult, but he graduated from San Benito High School, and he also benefited from a similar program, and now he works on Wall Street. So again, we wanted to thank the City of Hollister for providing these essential funding sources for the youth in our community. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
George Munoz.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, guests. As mentioned, my name is George Munoz, and I'm the current Vice President of MACE. I'm proud to say that I'm a charter member, founded in 1970, so you can tell by the color of my beard I've been around a while. Anyway, I also want to thank the Council for their generous contribution for this event that was held, as Veronica mentioned, on September the 7th. There were approximately 200 students, and they not only involved Hollister High School, but we included San Andreas High School as well. And from the comments that I heard, it was well received. Not just an opportunity to get out of school early. I wanted to mention, as Veronica mentioned, there was a handout, and the flyer had... Oh, okay, well, that's all right. Just so I don't misspeak here, since I'm on record. Our primary speaker was Robert Renteria, and he's a well-known educator in the sense that he's a writer and an author. Grew up in East L.A., a couple of points that are noted on your sheet there. He lived in the barrio, of course, was involved in a tough street crowd. He used drugs and dealt drugs. Very openly mentioned that, and while not proud of it, he mentioned for the purpose of how he got to where he is today and how he could help influence young males going forward. He dropped out of high school. He was shot and stabbed a couple of times. He turned his life around, though, and he earned his GED. Shortly after that, he joined the military and traveled throughout the world, including Germany, Italy, and Panama. And then after serving the Army, Mr. Renteria opened up a laundromat business. He eventually became a corporate vice president for a publicly traded company. Now, he mentioned all these things to the students, and watching him in the auditorium, although they did have a problem with their PA system, he used the graphics and so forth, and it was well received. I thought that they paid attention well, discussed it. There were a lot of questions that came forward, and so I think that this was a very good step for our youth, especially our male youth at risk. There are often times that we hear all the negative things that are going on in this community, and in this case, this is a way to turn it around. So we're very appreciative to the council for their support of our event, and we thank you again very much.
Thank you very much.
Rob Bernowski.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and council members. I'm sorry I don't have any treats for you today, but we all know that public input is very important to the democratic process, and I'm always very grateful that you allow me to speak and allow so many other people to speak. But I wanted to ask, and I know you can't respond, but have you ever considered doing a study with legal counsel over how to have more efficient meetings so it's not so painful to get to the items that are of obviously the most interest, like some of the topics that we've discussed. Doing certain things like changing the order up, maybe moving consent items to the end of your agenda instead of the front, or things like that, only because, again, Mr. Burns made the point there are so many youth here that are, I assume, part of the social studies or history class, and I don't know how much they're getting out of this until we actually get to the meat of the things that you vote on that are of the most important to them and members of the community. But again, I don't know what governs city councils, but I know that you have an ordinance, for example, on the 3-minute public speaking limit. So can you have an ordinance on other things that would make the meeting perhaps more meaningful? I'm just doing it out of concern to you guys and, of course, the rest of the public, because I would love to be at every public meeting, and especially City of Hollister's, because you impact us the most. But it is very painful to sit through this sometimes, to go through all the, just all the rigmarole to get to the very items that are, again, what I think are the most important. So anyway, just wanted to give you that comment. But again, thank you very much.
Thank you. Just bring a box of popcorn.
And Steve Becerra.
It was 51?
Steve Becerra is, I had him wrongly filed.
Okay.
There are no more speakers, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. We'll move to item D, City Manager's Report.
I think I just kind of in quick response to some of the comments that were made, I can appreciate Rob's sentiments because sometimes I do the same thing. But I'm going to be here till the end anyway, so it doesn't really matter what order for me. But we can look at changing up the order if it makes sense to the council, and we can maybe pitch some different ideas. The other thing real quick would be with relation to sort of the SAFER grant and the fire department, we actually had another meeting this morning. It went really well. I think what the plan is I will probably come back to you and formally ask for a study session on October 10th, but if you want to kind of put that date aside just in your calendars as a potential, that's probably going to be the first time that we're going to roll out a couple of alternatives for the council to consider in the event that the SAFER grant monies do not come through on September 30th. So. Oh. And that's it.
That's it. Okay, thank you very much. We'll move on to item F51. I'm sure there's a lot of you here tonight for this item. City Manager or City Attorney, you want to introduce this, or do you want me to kind of tell you where we're at?
Yeah, no, I mean, I'd be happy to, but I mean, it was something that you announced at the last meeting, and I provided you the names of some people to
Right. So at this point, I've been
replace
appointed.
me on that point. Yeah.
Right. I've been appointed to the ad hoc committee for the medical marijuana ordinance 1131. I do need time. I'm meeting with several groups right now. I need to meet with a few different attorneys so we can bring one back to the council to approve who we want to work with. So, in other words, I need more time. I think it'd be wiser for us to continue this discussion to the November 21st meeting so we can get all the information we can together. And I'm sorry? No, I would hope we can agree to move it to the November 21st meeting so we can gather more information, have more meetings, and inform the other council members of what's going on with our study sessions and our outreach to the community. Do we, council members, do you have any questions at all?
This would be in a form of a motion.
Well, we can't do it. We have to open to the public
Okay,
first.
all right.
Do you have any questions on it, though? No? Okay. Do we have speaker cards?
We do, Mr. Mayor. The first speaker is Steve Becerra.
Was that your trick to be on top of the list?
Thank you. First of all, medical marijuana. I first want to thank Councilman Clower for his hard work and his dedication to the people in his district and the people of the city for accepting a very hard job. And it's a very complex issue, as we've all found out. But thank you for your hard work, Carson. We really appreciate it. What I'd like to do is also encourage you to delay this issue as we gather more information from all sides of the stakeholders, both pro and con. As Mr. Clower had mentioned, that the people in his district are overwhelmingly not in favor of cultivation and manufacturing of medical marijuana within the city limits. But we've also heard that there is a real issue for people who are in need of medical marijuana. And I think that that we really need to look forward to coming up with a well-rounded ordinance that deals with cultivation, manufacturing, and more importantly, and most importantly, the ability for people who have a need of medical marijuana to obtain that marijuana locally in a safe, secure manner. So I'd encourage you to, Mr. Mayor, as a new member of the ad hoc committee, to continue in that vein. I think that it's very important that we embrace the law enforcement's opinion on this. It's, as I've seen at some of these dispensaries in San Jose, security is a big issue, just to keep everyone safe. I'd also like to encourage you to continue to, or reach out to the Board of Supervisors. The Board of Supervisors is dealing with a very complex and grave illegal cultivation, marijuana cultivation within the county, and we're all aware of it. You don't have to drive too far to figure out where these places are. So I encourage you to open up that conversation, and they also will be dealing with this issue of medical marijuana. And I hope that you all can get together and come up with something that's well balanced for our entire county, both those who live in the unincorporated area and those of us who live in the city. Shortly, we're going to be dealing with another marijuana issue, as you know. And right now we're talking about medical marijuana, and I like to focus on that. But I think that you'll find, regardless of what happens for Prop 64 in November, if Prop 64 passes, I think you'll still find that the majority of your constituents will not be in favor of adult use marijuana within the city limits and likely within the county. So, but that's another battle for another day. But thank you.
Thank you very much.
Jack Kirk. Tim Burns.
Good evening, Council and Mayor. Once again, thank you for the opportunity to speak to you. First of all, I too want to thank Councilmember Clower for his hard effort in this. This is really a significant challenge for any municipality, and ultimately he received some truly unfair and unnecessary criticism that was not only untrue but was clearly mean-spirited. So thank you for your service, sir. With regard to the continuation, I strongly support it. I think it's a wise move, recognizing the election will happen before, as I understand it, the next conversation publicly will occur about that, and we will know more about the recreational issues at that point. Now, having said that, I do ask the question, and maybe it's moot at this point, at an earlier conversation about marijuana before you, the question was posed, why not put this to a vote of the people? And one of the council members suggested that it would be, if for no other reason, the sheer cost of putting it on the ballot. Having said that, there was somebody in the audience that stepped up to the podium and said, if it's about money, we can find the money to bring this to the ballot. And I would strongly encourage you, regardless of the timing, to consider strongly this being a vote of the people. It's clear in the conversations that have been had that I've been present for, Hollister is clearly about family and about our kids, and this concerns many people, and I've spoken with many people since I last spoke with you about this. I would say that if the city chooses to move forward, there's a problem in that there's no tax tied to it, and I would strongly encourage you to do what the County of Monterey is doing and tie it to a tax, so that there's a benefit and the costs the city incurs can be offset by the tax beyond the simple permit process, because I can tell you professionally that those dollars will not cover the cost of putting this forward. I clearly believe that it should be about compassionate care. It truly is about money, and that's all it's about. And so I would challenge you again when you move forward to take the action that reflects the interests of your community, the areas you represent, not necessarily those of the interests of people from outside the area. And I should say that any ordinance that would be approved should be approved in conjunction with or immediately after a taxing mechanism is put in place to address those. The reality is, if you adopt an ordinance, people are going to expect for you to enforce it, and if you don't have the resources to do it, and I seriously don't think you do, then that is very problematic, not only for city government, but truly for those who the ordinance will be enforced upon. And I guarantee you, if you create an ordinance that regulates this, those you regulate are also going to expect for you to enforce it, because otherwise it's an unfair business practice, and you have to be clear on that. I would finally challenge you to ask who was on the ad hoc committee. What is the DA's position on this process? What is Environmental Health Department's position? What is our county sheriff's position? What are the court's position? Because clearly the action you take will have an impact on all of those. Thank you, Council.
Thank you.
Tony LeBeau.
Good evening, Council, and thank you for hearing me speak, and thank you, Carson Clower, for your hard work and dedication to not only this ordinance but this city council, and thank you all. No one knows how hard it is to be up there doing your job other than me. Well, maybe a few others out there, but I do know. In the 1850s, there was a rush to come to the West, and it was the 49ers. And they came to the West with the anticipation or the opportunity and the idea of panning for gold and making money in the West. Levi Strauss came up with a brilliant idea. Let's sell them pans, shovels, and blue jeans. He made his money that way. Not everybody made their money panning for gold. Fast forward 150 years in San Benito County, we had an opportunity to get the outlets in San Benito County over here by Bedabel Road. And a lot of people fought that, and they pushed against it. And now Gilroy has those outlets, and they pay for their police and fire protection and a lot of their roads and improvements through the sales tax that's
generated from those outlets. San Diego County lost on that opportunity.
I wasn't here at the time.
I know, neither was I. Believe me. I was here. I just wasn't involved
Just
quite as
so the public knows.
much as I could. We now have a motorcycle rally on 4th of July that doesn't bring us any money. We have an air show, which is a great event. Thank you, Ruth Erickson. Wonderful event, but it really doesn't make us any money. We don't sell apricot freezes anymore in this community. Don't make any money. We now have an opportunity to tax and generate revenue from a medical perspective, cannabis opportunity, whatever you want to call it, in our community, and generate some revenue from it. And call me money hungry, greedy, or an opportunist, or whatever you'd like to call it, but I think this has an opportunity for us to generate a large sum of money that can help us with our fire protection, our police protection, and our roads. We could tax this, make some money at it, and make us have a better way of life, not only for the people that are suffering medically, but our community as a whole. I encourage this city council to take the proper measures to support this initiative, or this measure, and move forward with it, and don't let Carson Clower's work go to waste. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Marty Richmond.
Guys, hang on. If we can, folks, if we can avoid the applause for one side or the other so we don't get into a who's right or who's wrong, we're here to listen to each and every one of you and respect your opinions.
Marty Richard from Hollister. Why do you always say that when I get to the podium?
Because I know what's going to happen with you.
Thank you. So I think I've been coming to these meetings now for 10 years. Believe it or not, I was only 14 years old when I started, and I many times I come here and I carry water between the city council and the county because sometimes you don't communicate that well. So I'll let you know what happened at the last county meeting. The last county meeting, they're talking about now having a moratorium on growing marijuana, including medical marijuana in the county, because they made a mistake. They opened the door that wide, and 5,000 people walked through it. So we had people coming up to the podium saying, the guy next door to me, he's got 1,200 plants on his little piece of property there, and they're as big as trees. And he says they're medical marijuana, and he says he can produce the cards to prove it. And of course, those same cards can be seen almost in any county in California because there's no control. So I can sign up here for medical marijuana. I can sign up in San Jose and Santa Clara. I can sign up in Santa Cruz. I can sign up as many places I want. There's absolutely no registration of the cards. There's nothing. And they said, okay, let's have a moratorium. And then they said, wait. If we have a moratorium, we're going to have a legal problem because we will be in the takings business. And if we take away this fellow's 1,200 plants that everybody knows is not really medical marijuana, or he knows it's recreational, then we're going to have a problem. So we're going to have to wait and give him time to harvest. And so all of a sudden they opened up the door that far and they're into it. And that's my concern. I've been doing this long enough to know absolutely that I have no way of knowing how this is going to come out in the end. And I want to thank you all for taking on the subject, including the two members who are not here. But I don't know how it's going to come in. But whatever you do, you need to get the controls and the funding for those controls in place first. Not last, but first. Now, the people who want this will encourage you to put this into effect and then come around and talk about the controls later. You must have those controls in, because if you don't have them in, you're going to wind up just like the county. Everybody's going to run in here with the opportunity to make some money, and they're going to go into the business, whether they have a permit or don't have a permit. And when you go after them, they're going to say, okay, I asked for forgiveness, and you're going to have it everywhere. So what you've got to do is get the controls in first. I would mention to my friend Tony LeBou, him and I get along well, that if Prop 64 passes, there will be no tax on medical marijuana, because that's in Prop 64. So that's another problem. How would we fund the controls? I know an earlier speaker talked about that. I agree with him. Thank you.
Thank
for
you
your
very
time.
much.
Gary Cameron.
Never mind. No, I just
My name is Gary Cameron. I'm a resident of Hollister, and I'd like to just take just a few minutes this evening. I think that we all know that there is a legitimate need for medical marijuana, and that concerns me that there's a stigma attached to getting medical marijuana. I don't think it should be. I think that I don't feel a stigma when I go to the drugstore and have to pick up some antibiotics or something like that. So I feel compassion for those people, for their needs. I think that it's been, I think it's overused. You know, there's a lot of people that get cards and don't really need them. I think we're probably all aware of that too. But so the question, I think, is how can we provide for the needs of these individuals that have a legitimate need for medical marijuana? My wife and I both take prescription medications, and we know what the dosage is that we need, and we get those delivered to our home. So I know that other cities have established tightly controlled medical marijuana delivery systems in their ordinances, and it avoids having a dispensary, and it would avoid having I don't think that there's really enough people in Hollister to support a dispensary. So what we're maybe looking at is, if we had a dispensary, is having a lot of people come in from out of the area, and I'm not sure that's a good thing for our community here. So I hope that we can look at something like the ordinance that Emeryville has, where they are setting up so they can have a delivery system and meet the legitimate needs of those who have a need for medical marijuana. And lastly, I'd like to say I've talked to each one of you, and I really appreciate the time and effort that you put into this. I really do. I know that you went to a couple of meetings up in San Jose, spent a lot of time. I met with the mayor, and I met with Carson, and I appreciate Carson. He was very forthright, very open in everything that he had to say, and I learned a lot from him. And I just want to say how much I appreciate all of you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Jim Payne.
Kind of bummed I didn't get a brownie this time. Okay, so I just want to say thank you very much for, one, taking your guys' time and really focusing, getting more information. And a special thank you to the mayor allowing me to go to San Jose on that trip to get more information and see the process. It was eye-opening, and it's something that I really think that we need to take time and do it right for our community, whatever decision. And then the second thing is, I want to thank all the young men that took their hat off when we did the flag. Pledge allegiance. Thank you. You're welcome.
Stephanie Smith. Oh, sorry. Stephanie Smith.
Hi, I wanted to thank everybody for the time that they've taken on this, Carson and the mayor and Mickey. I understand you went to San Jose and attended those meetings. I think we all understand this is something that takes, it's going to take time to get right. I think there's a lot of learning that everyone has come by recently. I want to agree with some of the statements around that there are delivery services that we've recently learned about that are, capable of doing secure, private delivered by people who have had law enforcement background checks, so very safe and secure deliveries from outside the county that would, I understand, distribute taxes to our city. That being said, I believe a tax needs to be approved by the citizens by a vote. So I encourage you to take some time to look at this and look at how we can do this in an effective way. I think it's really important that we are able to get the medication, medical marijuana, to the citizens that really need it. It's important that we have that compassionate delivery, but as has been mentioned by some other people here, by all the research that we've all done, there really isn't enough of a market for a dispensary to be here, and so I think it probably is the best to look at like the Emeryville ordinance and look at ways that we can accommodate delivery to the area. We also need to have compassion for our residents, and cultivation and manufacturing puts them at risk to obviously not be able to enjoy their property. The smell, needs to be contained. There needs to be obviously something that's written in that contains and protects their right to be able to enjoy their property without interference. Also, manufacturing, like the operation that was busted this week, there's great risks involved with that type of processing that could cause fires in the area. And so, obviously we want to make it possible also to avoid, house fires from indoor grows. We want it to make sure that we're looking at the right ordinance that's going to make sure that people don't have to resort to that for their own use. So thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Sean Donahoe. Sorry, Sean Donahoe.
Good evening again. I'll try to be quicker this time around. Thanks, everybody. Thanks so much for your service, Councilmember Clower, on the subcommittee. It's good to see everybody again. It's good to see the conversation go forward. Just a couple of comments. Obviously, nothing stands still. It's been over a year since the MMRSA was voted into law at the state level. In the last year, many other jurisdictions have already moved forward with ordinances. I'd say in the last couple of weeks, about 7 different jurisdictions in Northern California have moved forward with ordinances. If, as one of the speakers suggested, you wait until sometime late 2018 to issue local licenses, I would simply say that there'll be about 90, maybe 100 jurisdictions that have moved forward by then. You'd be far too late to receive state licenses for medical licenses. Again, this is a dual licensure system. You have to have your local ordinance in place in order to receive your local licenses. That all has to be done by January 1st, 2018. If you wait until another tax ballot 218 vote, you will totally miss that boat, so there'll be hundreds of jobs that will no longer manifest here in Hollister. Some of the other comments that were made regarding Prop 64 were mostly inaccurate in their understanding of the measure, and I would just continue to do your homework. It's really, really complicated. I would say that Googling policy matters that are going on throughout the state. 482 cities, they move very fast. I know personally what's going on in Emeryville. I would say if you want to chain yourselves to something that existed at a snapshot in time in April in Emeryville, it's not going to stay that way. So I would continue to recommend that the City Council and the city continue to explore all necessary questions as you move forward with an ordinance. Yeah, that's about it.
Thank you.
Thanks.
That's it? That's it. Okay, appreciate that. Are there any questions from council? Comments?
Comments, but no questions.
Okay, comments.
Yeah, and I really want to thank the public for coming forward, and actually informing us on how you feel about whether you're for it or against it. And I really, Stephanie, thank you for recognizing the fact that we are educating ourselves as well. Yes, I did go to San Jose, and I'm going to Fresno. And you know what? And I think it's important that we go out there ourselves and educate ourselves, because come November, it's going to be different. It's going to be very different, because we're going to have to be dealing with 2 things at that time instead of just the medical. So, and I understand the need for some of the people that actually need it as medical. And I am very concerned about abuse of medical cards. I'm concerned about a lot of other things that have been brought up during the sessions that I've attended. And I'm not here to compare cities, and I will not be here and be intimidated by saying you're going to lose out on jobs. No, because we are also working with the state of California, with the Chief Bureau that is also telling us and giving us information that applications will begin after the 1st of January in 2018 and move on. So I think everybody will be on whoever applies for whatever happens then. So I just want to say thank you to everybody that's been here with, throughout the sessions. Yeah, we're getting phone calls. We got phone calls, emails, and all that. And you know what? And I do appreciate hearing from all of you. The decision we make is going to be, because it's got to be a responsible decision that is going to impact every one of you, your families, the young people in this community, and the people that need it as a medical issue. So, Mr. Mayor, that is my comment to
Thank you. I too want to thank everyone I've been meeting with, and from both sides of this issue. It's so much information. Somebody brought up the idea, or why didn't we put it onto the ballot for this November? And I'm glad we didn't, because I'm learning so much about this. I think it would have been a big mistake for us to do this too early. This is a complicated issue, and I really do spend quite a few hours, and I understand exactly why Councilmember Clower decided not to do this any longer. And I'm sure soon enough my wife is going to be hitting me over the head about this. But it takes time. And it's not as simple as just saying, put it on and tax it. It doesn't work that way. It just doesn't. Government is complicated, and there's a reason why it's complicated, because we don't just want to rush into anything. We want to take our time. So I'm hoping the council will agree to move this to November 21st. We'll have a really good idea what the public is thinking, and a lot more time to keep speaking with those in the industry, those that are opposing it, and come up with something that makes sense for our community. Because our community is not like all the others. We're our own place, and we need to make sure we do this right. So with that, is there a motion?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that we move the item to the meeting of November 21st, 2016.
Okay, there's a motion.
Second.
Motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. All right, students, I hope you all learned a really good lesson there. That was probably one of the biggest issues we're facing in our community. But we're going to take a 5-minute break so you can get your papers signed and run off and go do your homework.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion on this.
We're going to need to get public input.
You guys get public input?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Let's. Is there any public input on this item?
I have one card, Mr. Mayor, from Marty Richmond.
Okay.
I wouldn't want to miss this item.
Neither would I.
What is the item?
It's a resolution to approve the subdivision.
I'm just teasing. Thank you, Marty Richmond. I'd like to talk about this in extension. In other words, I have no specific objection to this development in the 241 residential units. However, and there's always a however, you know, if you ask me right now is how does that fit in our plans for our long-term wastewater project, so on and so forth. And if I take it piece by piece, I think I know the answer. The more people we have on the system, the less it's going to cost us, the fastest we pay it off, et cetera, et cetera. But the more people we have on the system, the more we use of our future capability to process the materials and so on and so forth. And we're not only supporting ourselves, and this has come up before, but we're supporting the county. And according to the wastewater, according to the urban plan, we're basically supporting the entire urban area, I believe is what it says. So essentially, we're going to be supporting a lot of residents that are not in the city. At least the development will not start in the city. It may eventually get taken into the city, but it doesn't start in the city, so we have less control. So, you know, if we sit here, I'm sure somebody knows how many will serve letters we've sent out. Somebody says, I want to put in 240 homes. Okay, here's a will serve letter. I want to do this. Here's another will serve letter. Because if they don't have a will serve letter, they're never going to get to build anything, I assume, right, for sewer. I think it's time we set up a system. It'll take a little time to do a report on the our long-term plans for the wastewater plant and how long it was going to last, how long we think it will last. In other words, we had so many years' worth of growth built into it when we started. I think it was 30 or something, and we had so many years to pay it off, and I think that was 30 or 20. And we've been moving on both fronts, and I congratulate you for paying it off early and taking some money out of the interest rates and so on and so forth. But the point I'm trying to make is we need to get a long-term plan on this, and we should keep a running account. We keep an eyeball on it. We should know how much we're reserving for our city, how much for contingencies for our city, how much we're willing to commit to the county and outside agencies, because you don't want to wake up one day and said, yeah, we told you the wastewater plant would last 30 years, but gee, it's only 15 years and we're out, or we're going to be looking for another $100 million plus whatever the CPI is going to be over 20 years. I won't be around to see it. It won't affect me, but I just think it's a good planning tool. It'll take a while to put that together. I don't think it should impact this particular vote, but I think we ought to get it. We ought to get it in front of the planners, get it in front of the council. I think that's important for our future. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Any other?
Yes, one more, sir. Michael Hansen.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, thank you for your time. I wasn't planning on speaking today. I saw this was up on the ballot, and I was, on the agenda, and I was had to speak on the topic. Every time I talk to friends that are outside or that live in the town, in my work, I meet them in Morgan Hill, Gilroy, wherever. The traffic issue coming into town is a nightmare. It is a parking lot on 125 and 156 every night, where it used to take 15 to 20 minutes to get into town. Now it takes half hour, 45 minutes, an hour just to get from Gilroy. Putting more housing in is just, it's crazy. We got to have some more infrastructure before we start throwing in more houses. There isn't water to putting in more houses. We got to have more water. We got to have a plan for more schools. especially more parks and places where we can travel. There's no just in this where this is going in, there isn't even a sidewalk on that side of the street. There's no place for bike lanes on that street on Meridian where this is going in. And these things need to be addressed before we throw in more houses. It seems to be ever since 1992 where my instructor was in, like, as soon as you can get houses in, let's throw them in. I think there needs to be a better plan for how we're going to grow the city. I think it's great. We need growth. We need the money from the taxes, but we need to have a better plan for how it's going to happen. So please don't vote yes on this one yet. But I know there's a lot of money involved, so thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other speakers? All right. Any questions or comments from council? I would like to say, as I always say, I think we do need to take much more time on these projects, figure out exactly what we're doing. We do have some major issues on our highways. We're putting a strain on the school system. I just think we need to step back, reevaluate how we're going to move forward in our community, put a plan together that starts to make sense, especially with the transportation issues or the road issues in our community. We are working with the schools to try to figure out a plan, but that is a different agency. But it's that partnership we have now at the Intergovernmental Committee to help us get there, and I think it is wiser for us to take our time. Any other comments, sir?
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to continue this item to the October 17th meeting.
Okay, there's a motion to continue to the October 17th. Is there a second? Second. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, motion carries. We'll move forward now to item G61, report from city council members regarding committees. Councilmember Luna?
Actually, we were going to have a gang prevention meeting, but it was canceled, so I didn't have any meetings. No
That's
meetings.
it. Councilmember Clower?
I didn't have any meetings.
I had a meeting with the Mobility Partnership, which is the VTA from Santa Clara County and our group, to talk about specifically Highway 25 and 152 on their side, and the ideas we have to help come up with a solution. We're in the process now of starting the discussions of a JPA so that we're committed to working together. We get a project done. It's going to be a lot of work, but Caltrans has been at all these meetings, and they're willing to step up, especially with 152. It's an interregional road, so it helps funding from the state level and the feds. But it's going to be a partnership. Without the JPA, we're going to find ourselves in the same situation again. This is a long, long process. I think we need to keep up with these partnerships. It's the only way we're going to get there. Also had a meeting with AMBAG. We were discussing some of the numbers of our population growth for the next 20 years. And actually, we're in line. We're not too bad if we stay with those numbers. I think it was an increase of about 18,000 people in the community for the next 30 years. And that was good to see, but maybe it's going to be really based on some of our road situations. And that was the only other committee I had. Okay, this time we'll go to item 62, informational reports from City Council. Councilmember Luna?
Yes, thank you. I attended an open house at the, I call it my self-care center on Monterey Street. Several people were there. We got a tour of the facility. And on Thursday, September the 15th, I attended the Aro Hardin School Ribbon Cutting Ceremony open house with the Hollister School District Board. It was very interesting, very nice what they have done to the school, the upgrade to the school. I attended that school.
I know.
and so it was very nice to go back. Also attended the health fair that was held at the Hollister Community Center in partnership with Jóvenes de Antano on Saturday, September 17th. And really, if you didn't attend, you missed out. There was Mr. Medina was there. Thank you for being there. They had about 25 booths, I think, with just about every agency you could think of there, including Hazel Hawkins Hospital, San Benito Health Foundation, and a lot of sponsors. It was nice because we did have some key people from out of the area visiting, and it's hopeful to see that the third largest healthcare agency in the nation, they sent a representative to look at Hollister and to look at what was going on with health. So I'm glad that the person came. Mexican Independence Day Parade in the Kermes. I know the mayor was there. So we participated in the parade, and I went out to St. Benedict Catholic Church afterwards to the fiesta they had there. I did receive a complaint from a member, a resident from Monterey Street regarding the barricades that blocked her out of her home. And she was coming back from the grocery store, and she couldn't get back in. So she asked in the future if, and I'm not sure what the permit application says, whether it's the city's responsibility to post along the way that there's going to be a parade so that residents can be aware. So that's something maybe that that we can look at, because I went back to look at the form and I didn't see if it was the responsibility of the sponsor of the parade or the city. I didn't see that. And I do want to report that there's a candidate forum coming up on Wednesday, the 28th of September at the Veterans Memorial Building. And I understand that the committee is having a hard time trying to locate some of the candidates because on their filings they did not list their contact information. So if you're a candidate and you want to be there at the candidate forum, you can send me an email or contact me, and I will forward that on to the committee. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Flower?
Yes, last time I kind of reported out on the informational report. I said that I was going to be meeting with the superintendent of the Hollister School District and the director of facilities, essentially. And Bill and Brian went with me, and we had what I would consider a somewhat productive meeting. We were given a couple of things that we needed to kind of iron out before we can really move forward with any ideas on joint use facilities in addition to what we already have. And the main concern that they had was the condition of the city's facilities at Calaveras. And so obviously last week we worked forward on addressing the bathrooms, and hopefully once we have a couple community meetings and get the Parks and Rec Commission involved, we'll have an idea of how we can move forward with the playground as well. That was kind of their big concern out of all of our joint use agreements. And then also today I met with Principal Ward at Lad Lane and had a nice little chat with him, and he gave me a tour of the facility, and I think that there's an opportunity there. Obviously we got to kind of handle some other things before we get there, but with some cooperation and some hard work, I think we'll end up having to hopefully have some sort of facility in the south side of Hollister there. That's it.
Okay. I had a conversation with the superintendent of the high school to see if we can come up with a joint use for their new tennis courts so that the public can use it at night during the weekends and other hours that school is not in session. I asked for more information as far as what that means dollar-wise, and I think hopefully we can bring it here to the council and have them do a presentation of what they're looking for. I think it'd probably be the best way to do that. If they're ready, I think that would be a good idea.
I'll ask.
And that's the only other update I have. City manager?
I have none.
Okay, city attorney?
Nothing.
Chief?
Yeah, I have two items. Peace officer standing training, the group that actually oversees all law enforcement agencies in California, did their yearly inspection recently at Hollister PD. We passed with flying colors and just received a notification of that in writing. Also, about a week later, the Department of Justice did their yearly audit. Again, we passed that one as well. They take about 30 random items that they look at that we've done queries on. checked it and verified them for legitimacy, and again, we're fine with that as well. Thank you.
Good job. City Clerk?
Just briefly to Councilmember Luna's remarks about reaching the candidates. All the candidates' info is on the website. All I can think is that when he showed me the emails that he had sent to them, there were just technical issues. There was a .gov instead of a .com. There was a misspelling of a name, other things, but all of their contact info is on the web, and it's easy to see. I also wanted to say that 2 weeks ago I was elected to the State Board of the California Association of City Clerks for a 2-year term, which we do most of our work via telephone. So it really doesn't mean anything other than I get a little bit closer to my Master Municipal Clerk certification. I just wanted to say thank you to my Deputy City Clerk, Christine Black, for doing such a great job in working the last 3 meetings of the council while I was at home taking care of a bad asthma attack. So thanks to her.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll move on to item 63, the Hollister Airport Air Show.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. I'm here to give you the final report on this year's air show. Once again, we managed to have another safe event. There were no injuries, accidents, or other issues out there. We did have one challenge early in the preparations for the air show. We lost one of our airport commissioners and one of the members of the air show committee in an unfortunate accident at another airport. It was kind of a challenge for some of the committee members to get focused after that. But we managed to do it, and we managed to put together an excellent show for those of you that went. We cut back on the performers a little bit this year. We increased the advertising this year. We had more of a draw from the Bay Area. Our demographics showed that. But once again, we lost a similar amount of money, about $19,000. So at this point, that's kind of what it's looking like it's going to cost to continue to do the air show, is about $20,000. That money does come from the airport. It's secured by the airport. It's not a general fund expense. It comes out of the airport operating fund. It equates to about 3% of the revenues of the airport. It was discussed at length with the Airport Commission at the last meeting, and they voted 5-1 to support continuing the air show because they recognize that spending 3% of the revenues for advertising and goodwill in the community, you get a long-term investment in doing that rather than spending 15% of your revenues on direct advertising to accomplish the same thing. If we do continue the air show, my recommendation would be to drop the TV advertising on the peninsula and go to a strictly radio advertising format. And then we would keep the performers programmed at about the level they're at now. We did go $6,000 over budget. The city manager was informed of that, and options were given. And with his permission, we did go ahead and have the Navy bring the F-18 in. That was about a $3,000 expense. And then the cost of fuel fluctuates, obviously, and it fluctuated. And that, and along with some staff costs that were unanticipated, made up the other $3,000.
Okay, do we have questions from council?
Not a question, but would it work better if it was on any other weekend other than Father's Day?
I could tell you about Memorial Day. We had 2 where it rained, one where it snowed the Friday before, just to the past, going over to the valley. So moving in that direction, I would not recommend because the weather is unpredictable around there. Plus, it's my birthday.
That would be May.
That would be May.
Yeah.
If you went deeper into the summer, the issue is CAL FIRE. As it is, our last 2 air shows that have been on Father's Day, CAL FIRE has interrupted the show probably 12 to 18 times because they're live and they're active, which is why we're trying to do it on Memorial Day before they went active. If it's a few interruptions, it just adds to the experience. CAL FIRE has been great working with us. Unless they really need to get in and get more mud to drop on a fire, they'll go hold and wait until the performer's done with his act. It makes me a little nervous because performers take off with a minimum load of fuel. They're focused on what they're doing. Any interruption could cause something to go haywire. That's why they're on a separate radio frequency. That radio frequency is not interrupted, and we're really reluctant to interrupt them. And now that we're playing with CAL FIRE, they are getting interrupted quite frequently. So I think where we are is doable. It's a lot more communication with CAL FIRE and facilitating and making sure everything works so that it goes down safely. It's doable. I would be reluctant to move it any further into the year where it's hotter, drier, stuff catches on fire easier. It's a mess.
But it seems like every year we are losing money.
And the story is, how do you make $2 million in the air show business? You start with 3. It's kind of the way it is. I could give you a report on other air shows so that you have something to compare it to. If you'd like, I could pull the numbers off Salinas. I can go back and get the numbers off Watsonville. It's been a few years since I looked at them, so I don't want to throw anything out in this public forum right now. But I think we need to recognize it's going to cost $20,000 to put on an air show. And if we go forward, I think we should recognize that. It doesn't mean we're not going to try to minimize that, but I don't get the $600,000 in donations that the Salinas Air Show does every year.
Well, they have different audiences. Salinas, there's no comparison.
They do. But Watsonville got $120,000 in donations from their area. We don't get that. We get $8,000. That's what we get. So.
My comment.
That's it. I don't have enough information from your report to see what your costs were. I see the breakdown of the personnel and services and supplies, but I'm not seeing any more information. If we can get more information, that would be helpful. But I think it's time now that the committee has to get together and figure out how to raise that money throughout the year to put on this air show. At the end of the day, it's their air show, and they're going to have to do some fundraising to make this thing happen. I'm sure there's a way to cut down that expense of this air show, and we talked about this before, but I don't think we can just keep moving on at $19,000 and just say it's okay. Let the committee work towards fundraising throughout the year to put on the show, or see where else you can cut some of the expenses. I don't know what your TV budget was. Maybe you can tell us.
It was $6,000.
$6. What about your radio?
$7.
6, 7. Okay, so it's, yeah. Every time I've been to this show, it's a fun show. It's a beautiful show. It seems to me most of the people there are local, and
about half.
Yeah, at least. And I think, I agree with Councilmember Luna. It's always hard on Father's Day to be there. I don't know if you can do it the week before or the weekend after. I always try to, on those holidays or those special days, we always make plans to go do something with the family. And every once in a while I can come catch the show, but more often than not I can't. So I think you have to look at that and really sit down with your committee and figure out what you're going to do. How are you going to raise those funds? We can't just keep going and saying it's a negative here. But it's a good show, so I think there's a way to do it. But I would hope you can bring back more numbers, more detail, have a conversation with that committee, and present a better plan for the show. Do we have any comment cards?
No, sir.
No? Okay, so this was just update. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. HIJK, there's no other business. Is there a motion to adjourn? Is there a second? All in favor? All right, motion carries. Thank you, everyone, for coming out tonight.